Yo, what's going on everybody? Welcome back, it's Jordan here. Today we're going to start constructing my massive medieval castle, and I'm going to build it using 6 of these bad boys right here. This is the Creator 3-in-1 Medieval Castle. The other day when I started working on this project, I built a 48 by 48 stud mills plate. We've got some grass, then we've got the moat, and then the platform for the actual castle. Not too bad. We've got 6 studs on this side, 6 studs on the other side, 6 studs in front, and 6 studs on the back for growth, making it 12 studs in either direction, which is actually pretty big because, of course, when you build this, you can actually have like these towers sort of branch outward with all the slopes and everything, right? We could build a pretty cool castle on this plate. But I'm sort of like using hindsight right now, and I'm like, oh, if I build this on this base plate and I'm like halfway done, am I going to run out of room? Because I've got 6 of these castles. Like, that's a lot of parts. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to run out of room. So I think the first thing I need to do is rebuild this mills plate, and I'm actually going to increase the size of it from 48 by 48 studs to 64 by 64 studs. I've got 4 standard green base plates right here ready to go. The first thing I did was frame the 4 base plates with 4 studs of green, and then I also added the water, which is 5 studs. I added that using black, dark blue, and regular blue plate. However, the black plate is just on the exterior or interior stud, because that's where the water will be the deepest. And then I created the pad for my castle using dark gray brick, dark gray plate, and some colorful plate in the interior. Originally, I built this as a perfect square, and I was like, ooh, that looks sort of strange. So I decided to taper the corners a bit there, just because I don't want it to look like a perfect square. There's a bunch more blending that I'm gonna do as well. But I built the pad 3 bricks tall rather than 1, just adding some more height to the castle, which is nice. Dark gray exterior wall, and then the colorful bricks in the interior there. And I built that using 2x2s and also 2x3s. The 2x3s go over the seams of the base plate, so that's going to make this thing super strong, because this is going to be a very heavy castle, as I have lots of parts that are going to go into it. So now my plan is to actually blend in this dark gray wall, because that's not going to look very good. This castle came with a ton of slopes in olive, dark green, sand green, and also some olive bricks. And then I have some more bricks in my inventory, which will be like those natural colors, the browns and dark greens and whatnot. So my plan is to blend in the wall using those parts. However, what I'm going to have to do now is actually go around with plate, specifically black plate, and actually increase the size of the moat. So I'm going to go around and fill in all of this exposed base plate with plate. Because, for example, if I were to take this slope and just put it there, and then I put a tile on the water, well, it's not going to look too good, because that slope is like inset. So what I have to do is add all the plate, and then add the slope or the brick, and then it's going to sit sort of above the water and just sort of make more sense. When I place it on there, you can see how much more space we have. Like, it's actually wild. That's a ton of space on either side as well. That's nice. I know I did give more space to the moat, to the green plate, and also to the blending, but I think once I get all that done, it's sort of all gonna tie together and look nice. Also, another thing I've got to consider, the reason I did this right here is because I need to like round these corners. That doesn't look natural at all. So by tapering this in, it's going to give me more space to take care of that out here. Oh, the texture using the slopes has been added, so that is blended in nicely. And also all the water detail as well. In the water detail is some 1x1 studs and also some cheese slopes. And then I added the slopes to the corners to try and round it off. And look at that. That's a beautiful looking moat. Love the fact that I decided to raise it up. I think that just adds a little bit of height to the build. Now, when it comes to constructing the actual castle, the first thing they wanted to create was the topmost towers. These things are huge. They are double the size of the original, because the original has these tan or dark tan 6x6 plates, and then there's the inverted slopes, arches, snot bricks, and shield tiles that come one stud out on in all 4 directions from those 6x6 plates. So these ones here are double. Holy, that was loud. Sorry about that. That was my kids. These are double, so they're 12 by 12 in the inside, but there's actually a perimeter of 4 and then a hole for a ladder. And then we've got 2 of the arrow slots up front there, a place for the banner. And rather than having the light gray cylinder towers, like on the original, there's just the single cylinder pillar there, I guess I'll call it. This one here is a corner. So it's essentially like 2 by 2, but it is a corner. And then the interior or the exterior walls have been doubled up as well. So rather than being 1 panel or 4 studs wide, they are 8 studs wide. So everything's been doubled up nicely, and there's a hole for a ladder as well. Now, typically the bottom plate here would be dark tan. You can see it from the exterior there, but didn't have enough 4 by dark tan plates, so I just pulled some light gray plate from the part selection that's right behind me there. And then there's going to be a removable wall right there. This one is actually a bit better. It's got a 1 by 2 with a slide, so you can actually remove that wall. So then you're going to be able to get in there and see the ladders that actually connect the different parts of the tower. So I've added 2 more floors to the towers. We've got the top with the removable wall that we just saw there. Then there's the midsection that has the large gray arch, light gray that is. Then the 6 by dark gray arch, same with the bottom 6 by 6 by, because that's going to connect to the different sections of the walls that connect all of the towers. And then there's going to be the larger section right here, which has that like blue slanted roof, and that's going to host the drawbridge. Also, some detail has been added to the top of them. The arches have been framed off there, and ladders have been added as well. So now you can see the ladder comes right down to this floor right there. So knights and soldiers can make their way to the top of the tower. Forgot to point out the banners in the last clip, I think, as well. So you got the banners there, which go between the arrow slits. But here is the side wall, well, one of them. So same sort of thing. We've got the dark tan line, and then there's the dark gray wall that uses a combination of pieces. I actually decided to pull these from my inventory. I found those in the pad wall, those modified 1 by 2s, and combine those with the use of masonry and regular brick. And then I carried over this design with the arches and the snot bricks and also the shield tiles to the top of the wall. Now I've got 2 that are identical. There's one of them, and the other one's right over here. So that's what it looks like from the inside. Put some large arches and some of those 1 by 2 by 2 gray panels to support this wall. And then I decided to put some arches in the interior there as well. And that tiled off section is going to be where archers can stand and actually shoot their arrows between the shield tiles. Right, so you got some side of wall or side of castle protection there, I guess. And then, yeah, I put some arches in there just to make it look a little bit better. And then I put some arches on this side here, the light gray ones rather than dark gray, because it was getting pretty dark gray. And this one is going to sit between these 2 towers on this side over here, like so. And they actually line up, like those right there, they line up with the 6 wide arches on the bottom of the towers. And they're actually going to be inset 3 studs from the castle wall, so that the towers are just a little bit larger. I just think that's an authentic castle feel. This structure is substantially different than the other castle walls. I was sort of going for those colors, and I think I achieved that. Yeah, not bad at all. We've got like this little shack, and I think the shack is actually going to be the blacksmith, just like the original set. So that's why I put the chimney on the roof there. The roof is pretty cool. It's the dark blue slopes. And then we've got those gold windows, or the shutters, I should say, framed with the brown inverted slopes and the brown 2 by plate. And then it actually protrudes off the castle wall. So the castle wall is the same, but I built these arches into it. So I was able to have this structure 4 studs wider coming off the back of the castle. Yeah, I really like that. Let's place it. Let's see what it looks like. It should, like, holy cow, that was not good. Yeah, I got to start tacking some of this stuff down. The reason I'm not tacking it down is just in case some of the height of some of these things need to change, or the size of them, etc. But eventually, once I'm ready to start tacking these down, I'll do that. But yeah, that should line up, like the entrance right there to that building should line up with the arch on that side, and then also the arch on this side here. The drawbridge structure is pretty snazzy. It's pretty much the exact same as the original, but like everything else in this mock, much, much bigger. The slanted roof is bigger. I had to use some black tiles there instead of all dark blue, just because I didn't have enough dark blue. There wasn't that many in this set. The back wall, which was non-existent in the original set, pretty much copies the front wall. But this here has like an opening, and that should line up with this large opening right there. The issue is when I take this structure and I line it up with that, there's not much space for a drawbridge, because this hole here to access this structure has to align with that arch. And it leaves me like no clearance, only 6 bricks for a drawbridge, which is not big enough at all. So looking at the original structure, which I still have intact over here, you can see that the drawbridge function was actually arched off the second floor, and then it was actually lowered from the third floor. You see that? Sort of strange. So how am I going to get the spacing of that correct? Because my drawbridge is going to have to be bigger than this drawbridge. It's going to have to be longer because it has to go over a bigger gap, I think, and also it has to go from the high ground to the low ground. There's 2 ways that I could do this. I could add a whole nother floor to each tower and to all the different sections of this castle, that being the castle walls, the tower, the back building, pretty much everything. Or what I could do is just increase the height of the ground floor. And I think that's what I'm going to do, because now when you look at it, the ground floor is pretty small, and typically you'd want the ground floor to be taller than the rest of the floors, but right now it is the same. So I guess what I'm going to do is just grab all of these modules, thank goodness they're all loose, and just add probably 3, maybe 4 bricks of height to everything. I've been fiddle farting around with the drawbridge for quite some time, but I think I've finally got it figured out. Now I have this crank on the side right there. So there's a Technic axle that runs through and connects to the mechanism that's in that little building there. And I should be able to draw the drawbridge up all the way so it's like flush. However, there is a big gap there, but what I plan to do is add some cheese slopes, some 1x1s, and other miscellaneous pieces just to make like a nice ramp going down, and then also a pathway that leads into the castle. But just getting this worked out took quite a bit of time because I had to get the right arch height, the right arch width. I also created this little tiled plate there for the actual drawbridge, which is nice. And then just getting the mechanism correct as well. Just because I couldn't use the original one and had to be completely redone because this is way larger, and that mechanism is right there. So I've got some Technic axles and Technic pins that run through the 1x2 Technic bricks, and then I can crank it upward. Makes a pretty authentic noise, right? Pretty sweet. But to bring it back down, I just got to slap it down like that. I could put a locking mechanism on the side here that would lock that wheel, or like that brown crank in spot, but I don't think it's necessary. I think it's pretty cool the way it just cranks it up and then it just chills there, and then to lower it, just got to give it a little bit of a push. So yeah, that worked out quite nicely. I also raised this up. It ended up being 4 bricks just to line the archway with this little building there. So I've got to raise everything up 4 more bricks to get the math right. I took the time to clean up all my parts. That felt pretty good. And I finished the changes to the massive castle. Like, this thing is huge. Take a look at the original. That's all that's really left of it. But you can see like the towers, they're only 6 studs wide. The entrance is pretty small. This thing is just huge. Like, it is substantial. It feels heavy. It is heavy. It's big. I'm really happy with the outcome of it, but I did make a crucial mistake. So I pushed, like, after raising all of this up 4 bricks everywhere, I attached it to the mills plate. And that was a mistake, because now I want to add interior details, and that's going to be really hard to do because it's going to be hard to reach in there and add said interior details. Of course, I'm going to build the blacksmith in there, probably some sort of king's keep. There's got to be a jail, probably a little market. And then, of course, we're going to cover this thing with minifigures and put knights all over it. Before I do that, the next thing I need to do is actually take all of these walls off and put 1x4 modified plates underneath them. I actually have a bunch of them in dark gray in this drawer right here with my tiles, and they're these bad boys right here. So I'm going to take a bunch of these and I'm going to put them around the entire perimeter of the walls with a combination of 1x2 tiles, which I still have a bunch of from the pad wall. And then I'm going to be able to easily remove these walls so that I can actually add the interior details. For example, it is literally going to be impossible to add the interior details in there, like in the base of this tower. So I should have made it modular in the sense that I'm able to remove those, and making those changes aren't going to be that, or isn't going to be that difficult, because you can see this here is like an individual unit. As you've been seeing, I've built this sort of modular, but then I didn't attach it correctly. All I have to do is just pull all these walls off, pull all the towers off, put those modified 1x4 plates down, and then there you go. I'll be able to actually access the interior. What would you like to see in the interior? There's definitely a bunch of different things that we can do, and I definitely can't wait to cover this thing with minifigures and just stories and details, right? That's going to make it even better than it already is. Also, I ended up just squaring this off. I was trying to use hindsight and like make that interesting shape so that I could have this at an interesting shape and cover it with slopes like you saw in this video. But I ended up just squaring it off anyway because I maximized the size of this castle. So I guess in hindsight, I didn't have to do that. But what I want to do is actually take more of these slopes, because there's a bunch left over, and continue up here and cover these 3 studs on the side. Maybe add some trees, some vegetation, some like mushrooms, things like this from the original set, and just sort of add more life to this thing on the exterior, because it is just giant gray walls right now. But it definitely is huge. I cannot stress that enough. This thing is absolutely massive. I'm so glad that the first thing I did was increase the size of the plate. Like, I almost need a wide angle lens for this thing. Look at it. It's huge. There is still a bunch of parts left over, as you saw on the ground there. And what I'm going to do is use those parts to hopefully develop the interior and build that King's Keep and some other stuff as well. Let me know what you think by commenting below. Please remember to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for some more great stuff. And have yourselves a great day. Farewell.